Good morning. My name is Susan Reardon. I'm the staff hearing officer, and I call the meeting of Wednesday, October 24th to order. The first item on the agenda is preliminary matters, and I haven't received any requests for continuances, withdrawals, postponements, or addition of ex-agenda items, so we will hear the items in the order they appear on the agenda. Under announcements and appeals, I'm to announce my decision on a performance standard permit for a large family daycare to be located at 420 Stanley Drive. Pursuant to state law, public hearings not allowed unless one is requested by an interested party or the applicant, and one wasn't requested, so I'll announce my decision. I do want to note that I did receive a number of written public comments. There was a total of 9 public comments that were expressing concerns with the project. Those include noise, the traffic generation, the use of the garage as part of the daycare facility, volume and speed of traffic, and then parking during drop-off and pickup times. There's been instances where people of the daycare park the wrong way on the street. And then in regards to the support, I received 2, and they are supportive of the daycare in that location. I did perform a site visit and reviewed the facility, and it does appear that the garage is used as part of the daycare facility, and the staff report notes different, like a storage shed in the setback. So looking at the whole of the record and taking into consideration the different standards that are required for a daycare facility, in the staff report, it outlines the different standards that are reviewed. They include the location of a large family daycare. A large family daycare isn't allowed use in the single-family zone. One of this size, they do require a performance standard permit, and it's just more to look at the different aspects of the facility, such as not being located more than 300 feet. They're not being closer than 300 feet from each other. That the outdoor play activities, that they're limited to certain hours. In our community, it's 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Then loading and unloading of the drop-off and the pickup of the children. And then parking to make sure there's adequate parking for any employees. And so looking at those standards, I agree that this daycare facility is an appropriate use in this neighborhood. There are some impact or some effects regarding it, and I believe can be dealt with through conditions of approval. One being that the garage shall not be used as any part of the operation of the daycare, so not drop-off, not pickup, not reading, not anything. It needs to be open and available for parking at all times, and that is consistent with other single-family homes in the neighborhood, that you're required 2 covered parking spaces and they can't be used for storage or any activity. So I will put a condition on the daycare that the garage shall not be used as part of the daycare program, and then require, similar to the proposed condition in the staff report regarding a site visit being necessary within 14 days of today's hearing, to validate the location of a storage shed. They'll also be validating that all uses associated with that daycare is removed from the garage. And then in regards to loading and unloading, the code requires a plan and a schedule for the pickup and drop-off of children and clients to be provided to the review authority. And included in the staff report is a list of daily schedule, which includes the times for pickups and drop-offs. I will add a condition that the operator of the daycare facility also needs to submit to the city, to the planning division, a notice that is submitted to the parents and guardians, just reminding them of the proper pickup and drop-off procedures, including ways to park in the street in conformance with the vehicle code, that it needs to be, although the daycare facility is an allowed use in the zone, it also needs to be respectful of the neighborhood and to minimize the impacts and off-site effects. So that will be an added condition. And then in regards to the play activities and noise, there's families in neighborhoods that have kids and they play outside, and that is just part of a single-family zone type use. However, on the site visit, I did notice some additional improvements that may be located in the setback, and similar to a single-family home, play structures, chicken coops, that kind of stuff is not allowed in the setback. So at the same time that the city staff's out there inspecting the location of the storage shed that was identified in the staff report, as well as the use of the garage, they'll also be looking to verify that the chicken coop and the play structure with the swing set, that they're not located in any required setback. Those are the added conditions that I will place on the project to be able to approve the requested performance standard permit. My action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days, and they also have oversight authority of all my actions, and if they felt if this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during the same 10-day review period. And if we do receive an appeal or the Planning Commission calls us up, Stephanie will be contacting the applicant. So the next item on the agenda is comments from members on the public pertaining to items not on today's agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the staff hearing officer on items not on today's agenda? No? Seeing no one, we will go to the next item, which is 308 Santa Monica Way, if the applicant would like to come up to the table. Good morning. Anytime you're ready, Stephanie.
Good morning. So we are here to discuss both a front and an interior setback modification request to allow the conversion of an existing non-conforming garage to habitable space. So the existing 6,375 square foot E3 SD3 zoned lot is outlined here in pink, and the setbacks are shown in yellow. So we can see that the existing garage is non-conforming to both the western interior setback as well as the front setback. The project includes converting this garage to habitable space as part of an interior remodel. It would be a master bedroom suite. And there are windows and doors proposed to change in the setback, such as the actual garage door would be removed, and a new window would be in the interior setback here, and a new window in the front would be over here. The project also includes construction of a new two-car garage to replace this existing garage. That garage would be located here, and it would respect all setbacks. And then behind that garage is a proposed utility room, a laundry room. And then there's also some site improvements, such as a wall being constructed here to create a courtyard at the entrance of the house. This project is exempt from design review by the Single Family Design Board. During my staff site visit, I did notice that there was a boat on site over in the setbacks over here. And so the removal of that boat is now included in the scope of work for the project. The project site is located in the appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone between the sea and the first public road paralleling the sea, and the project will result in 10% or more floor area for the structure, so therefore a coastal development permit is required. So staff reviewed policies related to the California Coastal Act and the city's local coastal plan and determined that the project is consistent with said policies. So staff is supportive of the CDP request. A series of standard conditions related to the CDP is included in the staff report under Exhibit A. The site is also constrained. It's part of what's called the Cypress Park subdivision, and there is a private covenant that prohibits second floor additions, and that was included as Exhibit C of the staff report. And so in this case, they couldn't build up And so what they're doing is converting existing space and building new space all on one level. The proposed project would result in a proposed floor to lot area ratio of 74%. The parcel was part of the city's downzone in the 1970s, changing the lot from R1 to E3, which changed the front setback from 15 feet to 20 feet, and the interior setback from 5 feet to 6 feet. The project was originally approved with a 15-foot front setback, but was constructed with a 14-foot 10-inch setback, meaning it was already non-conforming prior to the downzone. It's likely a result of construction error, or they were measuring to the inside of the walls during construction, something like that. So staff is supportive of the front setback encroachment, changing the garage to habitable space in the front setback due to this downzone that made the garage more non-conforming. The one existing window in the setback would be increased in width and centered along the facade here, but it would be facing the public street, so there's no concern about privacy impacts affecting any neighbors. And then also a second window in the setback proposed to replace the existing garage door would face inward on the courtyard area. So again, there are no privacy concerns with any windows in this front setback. In regards to the interior setback, staff is also supportive of this proposed change for the same reasons, with the downzone making the garage non-conforming. It was originally conforming to the requirement. And again, there's only one window proposed in the setback, and it would be a high window serving a bathroom over on this side over here. So it wouldn't be a privacy impact. So overall, staff is supportive due to the proposed residence being appropriately sized for the lot with that 74% FAR, while respecting the private covenant that the lot is subject to. So the project is also exempt from CEQA under categorical exemptions 15301 and 15305. And finally, staff has received no inquiries about this project from the public via letters, emails, phone calls, or people coming in the counter to see the plans.
Okay, great, thank you. Would you like to state your name for the record?
Dennis Thompson, architect.
And can you provide any additional comments you want?
Well, I'll just mention we also have another constraint on this property with a 10-foot utility easement in the back, a retaining wall here, so it's difficult to build toward the rear. And as Stephanie mentioned, it's a modest addition going from 1,200 to 1,700 square feet. We're not encroaching any further in either direction. It's a one-story building. The impact is small. I think it's an appropriate improvement for the house.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. We don't have any questions at this time. I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 308 Santa Monica Way? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. I did go out to the site and visited the neighborhood, and the pattern of development is consistent. Like Stephanie said, it was built under different zoning standards. The part of your project that is proposing new square footage conforms to today's standards, and the conversion of existing garage space into habitable space has negligible to no off-site impacts. I did notice there is a window proposed in the interior setback. However, it's a clear story window, right?
Right.
And so in terms of visual or privacy type impacts, that shouldn't cause any. Is it operable?
It is. It's an awning window that swings out, and it's high, so that, and it's in the bathtub.
Right. Yeah, here it is, right here showing. So, on interior setbacks, not only the building encroachment, but also what kind of openings and interactions between the two properties is a concern. Given the small size of the window and the fact it's clear star, it's not going to cause an impact. And then improving, enhancing the front facade of the building by the other window, that's an enhancement and towards the facade. It's up here showing this area. Yeah, so In regards to the coastal issues, although it is in the appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone, there's really not any significant coastal issues. There's not any significant public views. Parking is provided. There's no sensitive habitats. So in terms of consistency with the Coastal Act, the project's consistent with the policies contained in there. So in regards to the conditions of approval, you received a copy and you reviewed them. You understand them and agree with them?
Yep.
Okay. So, like I said, the front and interior requested modifications, they're appropriate, and the coastal permit findings, I can make those. In regards to the findings for the front and the interior setback, I will be separating them out to be clear on the different requests that are available. So the resolution will look a little different, but it'll include my justifications for being able to make them. So with the revised findings and the conditions of approval, I can approve your project. My action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days, and they also have a review authority over all my actions, and if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day appeal period, and if either of those would occur, Stephanie would contact you. Okay?
Yep.
Great. Then we'll move on to the next project, which I think you're the applicant for.
Just one comment on the coastal permit. I'm working with the state senator's office to try to soften this 10% and coastal development permit. It just seems onerous for such a modest project that's so far from the coast. So hopefully the Coastal Commission will back off a little bit.
Yeah, we're in the process right now of updating our coastal land use plan. It's being reviewed by them, so.
Right. I've talked with the coastal staff here, and they don't seem to have any interest in trying to change state policy, so I'll see if I can.
Okay, well, we'll move on to the next item, which is 2307 Wellington Avenue. Anytime you're ready.
Okay. So with this project, we are discussing an open yard modification to allow construction of a deck within the required open yard. The 5,805 square foot RS 7.5 zone lot is outlined here in pink, and it's developed with a single residential unit and a detached garage. The proposed project includes an interior remodel of the existing house and exterior changes, relocating a portable spa on site within the rear yard, and constructing this 378 square foot deck off the rear of the house. So with the spa is currently shown on the plans at the setback line at 6 feet. However, the applicant did submit a noise study that confirmed it would need to be 7 feet away from the property line to be consistent with the municipal code's noise policies. So there is a recommended condition of approval in the staff report to relocate the spa to 7 feet rather than 6 feet as shown here on the plans. The site is currently conforming to open yard requirements, and the open yard is shown here in yellow. So it's at least 1,250 square feet, minimum dimensions of 20 by 20. And the proposed deck would encroach just this purple amount here. And the reason it needs an open yard modification is because it's technically too tall. Open yard can only be located on areas 36 inches or less in height. And due to the slope of this lot, the height of this deck ranges between 3 foot 9 inches and 4 feet 10 inches. The project is exempt from design review by the Single Family Design Board, and staff is supportive of this open yard encroachment due to the slope of this lot making the rear yard largely inaccessible from the home. It's currently accessed off of this side stairwell that would be demolished as part of this project, and so this deck would make the rear open yard and this opportunity for outdoor living much more accessible from the house directly off of the back here and off of the master bedroom here. The resultant open yard that is conforming to city standards would not be reduced so far as to lose its function. There would still be a spa in the back here, and there's a lush lawn back here. It's a very nice area used for outdoor living. And further privacy impacts are not anticipated because there is a hedge over on this side of the lot that's approximately 8 feet tall, and the deck here is located out of the setback, so privacy concerns are not anticipated as part of this project. The project is exempt from CEQA under categorical exemptions 15301 and 15305. The site is located in an archaeologically sensitive area. However, the footings for this proposed deck are anticipated to be 12 inches deep or less. And so no archaeological report was required, but we did include standard conditions of approval related to the unlikely discovery of archaeological remains. The site is also located in the demolition review study area, and the existing house is potentially eligible as a structure of merit. So the urban historian reviewed the project and confirmed that there are no aesthetic impacts to either this or any other historic resources in the area anticipated as part of this project. And finally, staff has received no inquiries about the project from the public via emails, letters, calls, people coming in.
Okay, great, thank you. Would you like to state your name for the record again?
Sure, Dennis Thompson, architect. I think this is, it's a very small house and a very typical condition in much of Santa Barbara, where the front yard is level with the house and the backyard drops off very suddenly. So the open yard, even though it's there, is not very usable, especially for someone who's elderly. So what we're doing is making direct access to a usable outdoor space while still maintaining a pretty generous open yard.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I noticed on the site visit that really the only way to get to the house or to the yard is the driveway or out off the side. So in terms of direct access off of the kitchen, I think this is the office area. That seems like an improvement that's worth requesting. I do have a question for you in regards to the spa. Right now, there is a paved area somewhere over here where the spa's on, and then a wood deck.
Right.
And this indicates the wood deck's going to be removed. Is the paving also removed? Or I guess my question is, the condition that staff is proposing is that the spa be at least 7 feet from the interior property line, and I know spas need to be put on a hard surface. So what's the extent of the paving?
I think the spa will just sit on a concrete pad about the same size or a little bit larger than the spa. And I believe this concrete will come out. We haven't done a landscape plan.
Yeah, I was looking for the photos for it. There's a partial foundation or concrete, yeah.
Right.
Okay, that was just my only question for right now. I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 2307 Wellington Avenue? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Like I said, I did go out to the site, and your proposal, it's modest. It is appropriate. It makes the outdoor area accessible and usable, a usable outdoor area. My look at it when I'm on the site, it's not really connected to the residents in terms of trying to get to the backyard. So the amount of encroachment is small, and the encroachment itself is actually to make your outdoor area more usable. And so it is consistent with the vision for outdoor areas and as well as the open yard area. I would propose, or I would require changes, or I propose changes regarding condition 1, which talks about the relocation of the portable spa. I want to be more specific that not only the spa is 7 feet, but the concrete pad itself is at least 7 feet away. So then it's clear where the spa can be on the site. So I would change the condition to make it clear that it's the foundation or paving for the spa that be located at least 7 feet away. So with that change to the condition, and I'm just going to change the finding a little bit to speak to the usable outdoor area. But overall, the finding will remain the same. I can approve your project subject to those conditions of approval. My action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days, and they also have oversight authority of all my actions. and if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day review period, and if either of those would happen, Stephanie would contact you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
One more editorial comment. I know that the previous zoning ordinance was an 18-inch maximum encroachment into open yard, and now it's 3 feet. There's so many of these, it seems like it would have been wise to make it a little taller so that we don't have to come for mods for this kind of thing.
Well, we did change it. That was changed back in 2008 when we increased it to 36 inches encroachment, and it was for sloped lots.
Yeah.
So that was just carried forward with the ENZO. Sometimes it does warrant additional review when it's higher than that because of the potential offsite. In a more significantly sloped lot, it might have more impacts. So I understand your concern, and that would be something we could propose. But I think it is an improvement going over I don't even think it was 18 inches before. 10
What's that,
10
right?
inches.
Yeah, that's really low.
10 inches, and then we increased it to 36.
Yeah. So next time around. Maybe.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll go to the next item, which is 717 Western Avenue. If the applicant would like to come up to the table. Good morning.
Good morning.
Anytime you're ready, Stephanie.
Hello. So with this project, we are looking at a proposed front setback modification to allow construction of a garage and an accessory dwelling unit atop that garage. The existing site is a 5,663 square foot R2 zone lot, and it is outlined here in pink. And the lot is located at the end of Western Avenue, so if we can see in the little vicinity map here, the lot kind of dead ends, or the street kind of dead ends here. And what this does is create a right-of-way jog shown here. So this is the right-of-way line, and it comes and then dead ends at the end of Western down here. So technically, this entire line and this line up to this point are front setback lines. And so that means that the lot is subject to 2 of these 20-foot front setbacks, which creates this little jog here. The setbacks are shown here in yellow. And so the proposed encroachment is here in purple. So this is the proposed garage and ADU atop it. And this portion here in purple is within this 20-foot front setback. It is outside of this 20-foot front setback, but in this one. So the overall project includes constructing a 409 square foot 2-car garage with an attached 68 square foot laundry room, and then atop all of that would be the 518 square foot accessory dwelling unit. In total, there are 4 minor zoning exceptions that are going to be required for this project for both how tall fences are on lot lines, and those are subject to the single-family design board's purview, and then 2 from Public Works for them being too tall within 10 feet of a driveway. So all of this here is driveway. And in the staff report, there was an error that the fence on this portion would not require an MZE from Public Works due to it being essentially behind the garage, but it is required, and Public Works is supportive of both of those MZEs, and the Single Family Design Board has been supportive of both fence heights. The project would also abate a violation that's listed in ZIR 2016-00217 and ENF 2016-00835 that notes that a previous garage was demolished without ever providing additional covered parking. So this would be resolving that issue with having 2 new covered parking spaces. During the site visit, I did find that there was a large storage container on site being used as a makeshift garage, and that storage unit was large enough to require a building permit. And so there is a condition of approval in the staff report noting that the storage unit would be removed as part of this project. It would no longer be needed because there would be a garage. The project is exempt from design review by the Single Family Design Board, except for those fences that need the MZEs. However, previously the project didn't include an accessory dwelling unit, and it was accessory space atop the garage, so it did require design review, but it did go and get very positive comments about the size, bulk, scale, and neighborhood compatibility. So the project does need to return for the fences, but it does not need to return for the building itself. Staff is supportive of this front setback encroachment. Due to the encroachment itself being very limited in size, this purple area represents 61 square feet gross, and it's significantly less in terms of net square footage because most of what's in the setback here is wall. The front setback in this case also does appear to be more like an interior setback due to the way it's situated next to this lot here. There's an interior lot line fence that runs across here. There's another house over here that you pull into off of Western here. It appears to be an interior setback rather than really what it is, which is the front setback. And so it doesn't appear to be an encroachment to average neighbor or average passerby. And also, all 3 of these components staff feels are appropriate improvements on the lot, and that the garage would be abating a violation, the laundry room would be providing a facility on site that isn't there currently in the existing house, and that the new accessory dwelling unit would be consistent with city standards of the adopted ADU ordinance. The project is exempt from CEQA under categorical exemptions 15303 and 15305. The site is located in an archaeologically sensitive area, so the applicant did submit an archaeological letter report. The environmental analyst reviewed said report and agreed with its conclusions, and so a standard recommendation of a condition of approval related to the unlikely discovery of archaeological resources is included in the staff report. The site is also located in the demolition review study area, so the urban historian looked at the project and confirmed that no aesthetic impacts to this or any historically designated resources is anticipated. And finally, staff has received no inquiries about the project.
Okay, great, thank you. Would you like to state your name for the record and provide additional comments?
John Eisenbeis, DMHA Architects.
Is there any comments you'd like to add?
I don't think I could have presented it any better than that.
Okay, I do have some clarifying questions for you in terms of the amount of the encroachment. Well, actually, that's the issue. On the floor plans, actually, it's not noted. The interior setback's not noted here on any of them, so it's hard to know what's encroaching into the setback. But so I'll.
I can point that out to you.
Huh? Yeah. On here, it looks like from gathering all the different plans that maybe the first floor, no, the second floor encroaches 3 feet, and the first floor is about 1.5 feet. Is that? Yeah, it's a requirement to have the setbacks on the floor plans, so we know where the encroachments are.
So really, this length of wall here is the same as this length of wall here. Your encroachment is this small portion here. The net area is 32.5 square feet.
When I look at the site plan, see, this doesn't match. So this part encroaches, the second floor encroaches more than the first floor, correct? There's an overhang?
Oh, because the second floor overhangs? Correct.
Okay. That's one of the things I'm trying to clarify, what exactly, because when I look here, I can see the stairs. It looks like the roof overhang does come to the edge of the stairs, but this I'm taking as it denotes the
Wall below.
the second floor, because when you look at the floor plans, the garage faces with the stairs here.
Right. So it does it overhangs the upper floor a little bit more than the lower floor. And check the roof plan.
See,
Okay.
the roof plan, the roof overhangs even more. You kind of can get that from the elevations. With the shadowing and stuff.
Right, here's the overhang here.
So the actual building encroachment looks to appear to be 3 feet. That roof overhang is another foot, so total 4 feet, and then the garage split in half. Okay. I think those are my questions right now. All right, I'd like to open the public hearing, and you guys are the next item. There's no one in the public hearing, so I'll close, or there's no one in the audience, so I'll close the public hearing. I did go out to the site and looked at the neighborhood, and although this, it is both a front and an interior yard, an interior setback and a front setback. Coming down the road, it is visible looking into the property. So in terms of front setback modifications, what we look at is the visual openness of the street and what potential effects the proposed project has in that area. So that's why I was questioning how much of an encroachment is here, because the existing house on the neighbor's property is back here. There is an existing fence in this area, so it will be viewed coming down the street. However, this is a dead-end street. It's not high volume of traffic. There's not a significant public view, and the amount of encroachment this way, although it's not in the front street or the front setback along the travel way, it is minor. It's 3.5 feet, 1.5 to 3.5 feet. This is the longer plane, but we're not talking about this setback. We're talking about this setback. So,
Correct.
looking at it in that regard, the amount of the encroachment wouldn't change this significantly the feeling of visual openness of the street frontage. So given the minor nature of it, it is an appropriate request. However, in terms of the findings, there are potential findings that could be made as explained in the staff report. It's the first one, secure and appropriate improvement on the lot. The second one's prevent unreasonable hardship due to the physical characteristics of the site or development or other circumstances, including but not limited to topography, noise, irregular property boundaries, proximity to creeks, or other circumstances. Result in development that is generally consistent with a pattern of development in the neighborhood or construct affordable housing. So in regards to the findings that I need to make, that the project proposing covered parking, that's a requirement of the zoning ordinance, so that's consistent. Providing another dwelling, an ADU, accessory dwelling unit, with the new state law, that is a state goal, and the city is always open to providing more housing. So the actual intent of the project is consistent with the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. I don't agree that this small portion of the this property line, being a front setback, represents a hardship to your property. It's less than half of the width. There is other room that it could be reduced down, but it is, again, an appropriate improvement on the lot. So I would change the finding to recognize the fact of providing the covered parking as well as additional dwelling unit, is an appropriate improvement on the lot. And it versus being a hardship, because a hardship is truly if there was too full,
Understood.
or extreme slope or a tree we're trying to protect or something. But I don't think the fact that I couldn't make that particular finding makes it not a valid request and an appropriate improvement for your property. So I would change the finding to reflect that discussion. In regards to the conditions of approval, you've reviewed them and you agree with them, you understand them?
I do.
Okay. Those are my two comments. So with the change in the finding and as well as the conditions of approval proposed by staff, I can approve your project. My action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days, and they also have oversight authority of all my actions, and if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day appeal period, and if either of those would occur, Stephanie would contact you.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. So now we move on to the last item, which is 2014 Garden Street. Good morning.
Okay. Or not. Okay. So we're here today to discuss an interior setback modification. I wanted to show you, start on the cover page because this is what we're talking about. It's the proposed style of 8, which is essentially platform steps all at the front of the building. So for context, this is by Garden and Mission. This is Garden Street. You'll notice this is 2010 Garden Street, and that's Mission going up that way. It slopes up that way. This is the house in question at 2014 Garden Street. All of these residences are eligible for historic designation. The subject site is actually a structure of merit. But for context, they're all within the general same size, bulk, and scale. They're all 2 stories. This is the site across the street, so there is one story. This is the most immediately adjacent, but the rest are all 2 stories. This is the subject house. Okay. So starting here, this is the existing site. It's a 13,750 square foot parcel. It's developed with a 3,571 square foot 2-story house, a 337 square foot detached 2-car garage, and a 147 square foot shed. As I said earlier, it's a designated structure of merit. As it's currently set up, there are these 3 entry steps at the front of the residence. The project was reviewed by the Historic Landmarks Commission over several meetings, and the entire scope of the work essentially involved site alterations and a remodel to the residence, essentially to bring it more back to its original configuration and bring it back to its original historic integrity. The existing residence is not conforming to 2 setbacks. So you'll notice this is the setback line, and the setback lines are shown in yellow here. But it is in the western interior setback, and there was or is an addition here that is non-conforming to the eastern setback. Part of the proposal that was reviewed by the Historic Landmarks Commission was to demolish this room here, this breakfast room, and do a conforming breakfast room here. So taking away that element that was non-conforming. Also included in the scope of work was to demolish these entry steps and return it to the original configuration with the pro stylobate, which runs the whole span of the front of the residence. In addition, the project included demolishing this 2-car garage and the shed and building a new 745 square foot 2-car garage and storage structure. The project was reviewed by the Historic Landmarks Commission. They gave it very favorable comments throughout the review and gave it project design approval and final approval. Later during plan check, staff confirmed that the stylobate, which was proposed new, even though it was original configuration to the residence, was in the western interior setback and required a modification. So it did return to the Historic Landmarks Commission on October 3rd for comments specific to the stylobate. And they felt that it was an appropriate improvement, one to the residents, and that it also increases the eligibility of the structure of merit by returning it to its original configuration. And I do want to show you 2 photos. So this is the existing configuration of the entry steps. The stylobate was originally done. This is 1895 to 1896, and you can see it ran the span of the building. And then in 1937, the owners chose to demolish that element and do these entry steps. So really, they're just trying to bring it back to this. During the Historic Landmarks Commission review, there was a historic structures sites report prepared by Post Hazeltine. The HLC did review it. It involved the whole scope of work, the eligibility, and all the proposed improvements, including the stylobate. And though the HLC at that first hearing when they were reviewing the report, though they didn't specifically call out the stylobate, it was included in the report, and they did unanimously accept the report. And like I said, they gave it favorable comments at a later date. So, go to the elevations. Okay, so the residence, as it's currently configured, maintains a roughly a 4.2 approximate setback from the western property line. And as I said, there was an original stylobate that ran this way, so it's really just bringing it back to its original configuration. As proposed, it would run 47 feet along the front of the residence, and it would maintain the similar setback that the residence has with 4.2 relief and 5'8" encroachment into the 10-foot interior setback. Staff has been supportive of the proposed modification. Because of the Historic Landmarks Commission review and their unanimous support. Also, with the acceptance of the Historic Structures Report, the urban historian has granted her support, saying that it would be an improvement to the structure of merit and increase the eligibility of the building. Also, going back to the site plan, There's an existing 30-foot front setback, but as you can see, the house is substantially set back from Garden Street. It maintains 49-foot front setback, and from the adjacent residence, there's approximately a 27-foot setback. There's an existing driveway here that provides some additional relief, and there's vegetation, which I can show you on other photos if you'd like to see that. But there's substantial screening for this to elevate. Also, staff feels it's an appropriate improvement because it's essentially an architectural feature. It's not going to be used as a deck area. It's essentially entry steps and a platform to really accentuate the Garden Street frontage. There was an archaeological report prepared for this project, and it was accepted by the Historic Landmarks Commission on May 2nd, subject to the standard conditions regarding unanticipated archaeological resources. It is also exempt from further CEQA, subject to 15301 and 15305. And that is the extent of the project.
Okay, great, thank you. Would you like to state your name for the record and provide additional comments?
Barbara Lowenthal, Harrison Design, agent for the owners. And I have one of the owners in the audience with me, Catherine Moore. This project was from the get-go and has been and will be the entire time we do it to bring this house back to its original look on the front facade primarily, and enhance the eligibility, which we already now have, of the structure of merit. And the city historian is hoping that the entire neighborhood will become, which we're very supportive of. Now this is our second house that we've done on the street, and we're really thrilled that the owners are willing to go to the extent that they are to rehabilitate the house and bring it back to the way it looked originally. So we're thrilled to be here, and we're happy that they want to do the style abate.
I know this isn't in my purview, but it's just a question. So this was just an add-on at a later date?
It was a element of the house that got radically changed, and the wall on this side sits inside of the property line. And this little change to the original portion of the house made the driveway unusable. You could not get a car down it. I'm sure if you went out to the site, you saw that. Yeah. Our owners like the idea of maintaining that look of the front of the house. So we made literally a very small space. We can fit a small table and a couple of chairs and a few plants into that space. But they were willing to incur that cost to maintain the idea of what the original footprint of the house was, a little bit closer to what it was.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and this is a real
It's you
pinpoint.
just can't
Yeah.
get down there.
Yeah.
Have a little Mini Cooper or something like that. Anything else? No? Golf cart?
Right, a golf cart. I think you're right.
Okay, great. That was my really only question. I'd like to open the public hearing, and I would like to note I did receive one email from a neighbor at 2014 Garden Street, and they stated I 100% support all the design changes in the project. So one letter in support, and we haven't received any other.
No additional comments.
Heidi, do you receive
Oh. I do want to say throughout the process, I have had correspondence, not specific to the modification, but throughout the design review process, and it has all been favorable.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, I'll close the public hearing. The public hearing. Like I said, I did go out to the site and just looked at the neighborhood. In terms of my role in the project, it's very small. The request you're asking is, as Pilar pointed out, this corner of the project. So I wanted just to look to see what was next door, what the pattern of development is in the neighborhood. Even though this is a restoration of a previously existing element, it's not there now, and so it's being recreated. And I agree with staff's analysis in the staff report that what you're requesting, it's very minor. It is consistent with the zoning ordinance. A lot of times the concern, as I briefly explained in a project before, is the interplay between the two properties. And the way this is designed is not designed to be a large gathering place. And even if it was, that would have issues, but you're allowed to use your interior setback. You don't tell your friends that come over, nope, can't get 6 foot, close to 6 foot from the fence. So you can use that. In this instance, it is an interior setback, but it's more of the front area in regards to the neighbor too. There is a driveway that separates this home from the other residence, and it's quite a ways back. So the proposal, it's consistent and is not anticipated to cause any adverse effects to the neighbor in that regard. So the conditions, yeah, there's just the one archaeological one that's pretty standard. I am going to make just minor changes to the findings, just reference the fact that it is consistent with the Secretary of Interior's standards, just to kind of provide more justification on the appropriateness of this type of request. And then also just work in discussion regarding what's on the neighbor's property and the location of it. So again, it's an appropriate request, and I agree with you that it's great that the owners are willing to really embrace the historic nature of the property and to enhance it and to restore it, because it is an important part of our community. So with that, I will make the findings as I revised them, and my action is subject to the condition that's contained in the staff report, and my action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days, and they also have oversight authority of all my actions, and if they felt this warranted discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day review period. And if either of those would occur, Pilar would contact you.
Thank you very
Great,
much.
sure.
Thanks, Pilar.
Yeah, I adjourn the meeting.